You're listening to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast brought to you by Nottinghamshire Live.
Hello, welcome to Garibaldi Red, Nottingham Forest podcast, Nottinghamshire Live. My name is Matt Davies. I'm back hosting after 2 weeks away, where I assume I didn't really miss much on the field for Nottingham Forest. Joined today by Reds legend Gary Birtles. First of all, Gary, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Yeah, good. Thank you, Matt.
And also returning to the podcast as a regular guest is Forza Garibaldi's Greg Mitchell. Greg, hello. Are you well?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Happy Nottinghamshire Day to you both.
Is that what it is? I saw this somewhere. Is it not?
I just saw it. Just saw it and thought I should mention it.
Oh, well. Happy Nottinghamshire Day. Hopefully Notts cricket win tonight. That would boost us a bit.
Yeah.
Well, Notts County had a good win to start the season, so that's one bonus.
Well, yes. One of the reasons I was off for 2 weeks, second week was a holiday. The first week I had some surgery and it was very painful. But I suspect, Greg, it wasn't as painful as watching Forest at Stoke on Saturday. I think we might as well start there before we branch out into Chris Hughton and everything that's going wrong, because this will probably inform a lot of the conversation. I'll talk about Wolves as well in a sec. Greg, talk to us about Stoke and the whole experience of how Forest went about it and what you made of it coming out of the ground.
Well, you know, like after the excitement of waiting for the 18 months and waiting for games to come, I got to the ground, I drove, so I hadn't drank, got amazing seats, like such a great view. And it's the first game in a long while where I actually sat and just watched it. And it wasn't good. The first half, I thought, maybe we could scrape a draw. Never looked like going anywhere forward. But then it just fell apart second half. And like every time when we go a goal down, nothing seems to happen. There's no drive to try and get the winner. It's like we're always trying to protect the 1-0 loss, and it just isn't good enough. It really isn't. And, you know, toxic. It was just toxic in the stands. You know, you wait so long for it, and it's not a very nice experience at all at the minute.
Why would you protect a 1-0 loss?
That's
nothing to protect. There's nothing there to protect.
That's like the only way I can sum it up. Yeah. It's just such a strange way of playing that we don't go positive with the substitutions, and if we bring a positive sub on, we take one of the only positives off the pitch, and that's been the last two games, Blackburn and Stoke, and it is so frustrating, and it gives the fans the excuse to get on the back straight away. Go back
to Bournemouth, playing against 10 men, did exactly the same. Taylor grabbing, the switch was there. Keep them both on. You give half an hour, we said this before, to absolutely go for it. And the fans will accept that if you still lose. But if they're seeing like for like and not going for it, they're just going to get more and more agitated. And like you said, it can become toxic. And I think that's what's frustrating everybody.
I feel like Chris Hughton has a system. He knows it could work eventually. He's probably not willing to change it. But what he's not looking at is, even if he thinks it'll work in 5-10 games, he's not going to be here in 5-10 games, especially if it's like that. And he needs to change things and do something different, or he's not going to be in a job, and he won't be in a job next week. It's sad. Like I say, we've waited so long for it. The players have waited so long for those full stadiums. You get sick of seeing how we've got the best home support, the best away support, this, that, the other, and we've just had 0 back and 0 points back. But Stoke was no different to Bournemouth, Blackburn. And yeah, I'm worried. I really am worried now. We're at the wrong end of the table, and we're not suddenly going to start shooting up it playing like this.
We're streaming on Facebook, and one of the first comments was, "Did they find your wallet?" Is that aimed at you, Greg? Did you lose your wallet at Stoke?
No.
Oh, that's weird. I lost my wallet, but it's from a random stranger. So I don't know.
I've never owned a wallet, so it's definitely not mine.
Never owned a wallet?
Never, no.
Where do you carry your huge amounts of money?
I don't. I just put it in the trouser pocket. Simple as.
Well, you're going to get pickpocketed now you've said this.
Nobody's going to try and pinch your money out of your trouser pocket. A wallet, yes, but not your money. It'll have to be a good pinch, that would.
Oh, okay. Well, I found my wallet, but now I might as well not bother. Just find the bank cards. Right, let's get back to talking about Forest. What we were talking about is kind of, because I went to the Wolves game. God knows why. I must have been mad from what people were telling me. But some friends from back home are Wolves fans, so I agreed to go with them. And while I enjoyed catching up with old friends, the football I suppose you take the game in isolation, don't you? Because it was kids again. It was men against boys in a lot of senses. Wolves were really good, but Forest strung out 6 across the edge of the box. The wingers were fullbacks, the fullbacks were centre halves, and they didn't have the ball. And I can sort of see why they did it, because Wolves are that much better. But when it went to 2-0, because the goals came in quick succession, then I think you have to take the handbrake off a bit, don't you? And not go like for like. The subs were like for like. Taylor came on for Graben. Like we were saying before we recorded, I said this to Garry, I'd have brought Mighton on as a striker as well and done something different. He did change formation to 6-3-1 for a lot of it, but in theory it was 4-3-3, but it just didn't work. I think you lost the game 4-0. I think fans would have been a lot happier if you'd had a go and lost the game 5-0 or 6-0. I mean, I'm going to tee Garry up for his stats now. He loves a stat, and he's got some from last night.
You know, I hate stats. I'm the worst.
You bring a lot of stats for someone who doesn't love stats.
Only the ones that matter. That's is the ones that Sky put up that I've mentioned. With a word in the bottom 2 or 3 of every forward, shots on target, second or third lowest scorers, all that I said last time. But I just looked at games last night. I looked at Barrow v Villa, which is a total mismatch. Villa win 6-0, but Barrow still had 6 shots and 2 on target. Huddersfield played Everton. Everton won 2-1. Huddersfield had 10 shots and 4 on target. Leeds beat Crewe 4-1. Crewe had 3, not on target, but they still had 3 shots. Morecambe, here's the one, beat Preston, lost 4-2, but Morecambe had 16 shots and 5 on target. Stoke Doncaster. Stoke won 2-0. Doncaster, 3 shots, 1 on target. Swansea Plymouth, 4-1 to Swansea. Plymouth had 8 shots and 2 on target. Brentford Forest Green, 3-1 to Brentford. Forest Green had 9 shots, 1 on target. Cardiff Brighton. Brighton won 2-0. Cardiff, 13 shots, 4 on target. QPR Oxford, 2-0 QPR. Oxford, 9 shots, 1 on target. I mean, that just tells you that it is possible if you do it right. Forest were, not on target for, is it the 3rd game in a row? And we go back to last season. We've said it again and again. He's got the defence perfectly well. We did really well, one of the top defences. But again, the worst thing was, we've already said about shots on target, touches in opposition's box and all things like that. And you think, right, got to work on that this season. Got to prepare for something better going forward, because the back's okay. We've still got Joe Worrell. McKenna's there. And still, no change. Like for like, for me, is one of the worst things you can do. If you're losing games, why go like for like? You're expecting the one man who replaces the striker to come on and change the game on its head. 2 could change the game on its head, because all of a sudden defenders are thinking, all right, well, I was only marking 1 before. Now I've got 2, and they could switch off. But we don't. I always quote Norwich as well. I did them a lot when they were in the Premier League last time. And he did exactly the same, the manager. If they were losing, he'd take the striker off and replace him with a striker. So, it's just crazy. The game has evolved. I said that last time. In the last three or so years, it has evolved in most leagues. And you have to adapt to that, evolution. And I just don't think Forest are changing to that tune at the moment.
Before we pick up on that, there's one other thing I want to say about the Wolves game. I thought the young lads did emerge a lot of credit. They've had a very young back 4, and they did make a couple of errors. And I think it probably showed you can't throw some of them into the first team, but they did well. And I thought Finn Back looks a real find. I think he's going to be a big star if they blood him in the right way. I think he looks really good. And I thought Jaden Richardson looks a good athlete, and Forner shows a lot of potential. So it wasn't a total dud for Forest in that sense. And I think we'll talk. I'll bring us on to the derby and who starts in goal, but I thought Horvath looked really good as well. So, yes, it was miserable, but there was something to take from the game on the fringes looking forwards for Forest. So, for what you were saying then, Garry and Greg, in fact, I'll ask you, Greg, first. Do you think, because Lamucci got sacked after 4 games last season, do you think Hughton, as much as we're willing him to succeed, and I'm certainly willing him to succeed because he's a really nice guy, but is he probably a bit fortunate to still be in a job as it stands going into this derby game?
Yes. And, even though I desperately don't want to sack another manager, it goes into last season and it's like, 2 wins in 18 or 19 now, if we include last night. Not won a league game in something like 10. The stats speak for themselves. If Forest wanted to get rid of him, I'm certain they would do. it seems with this regime, they wait till they've got someone in place to get rid of the manager. So whether they're just, ironing all that out and waiting for that to happen, or if they're giving him Derby. But my issue is that we beat Derby, which, God, we've got to. Does it give him a stay of execution? Does this just drag out a bit longer? Or will it hopefully be the kickstart we needed? Because I'm sure the players are getting frustrated. Those midfield players must be absolutely, they're just sideward passes, backward passes, slowing the game down rather than getting it forward and then leaving it for the defenders to lump it up, hope to get on top. That can't continue. Whether that's going to be the long-term game plan with him. Surely the owners are looking at that thinking this isn't what we signed up for. So I just think they would be well within their rights to try something else now.
You've often referenced the 1980 European Cup final, Gaz, of having to play up front on your own and how hard that was. I mean, I do have sympathy for Grabban and Taylor now, because from a striker's point of view, you've done it. I mean, you did that in one game at the very highest elite level, but to do that for 10 games in a row or 20 games in a row, do you have some sympathy for Taylor and Grabban doing it week in, week out?
Of course I do, because if you're playing up front by yourself, you're beholden on people behind you. And look, I had some great players behind me in that game. We were under pressure for 90 minutes. How we won the game, I don't know. But, we did win the game. And I did Leicester Wolves the first game of the season. And Jamie Vardy, not first game of the season, last week, Jamie Vardy was up front by himself. But he gets support from Maddison. He gets support from, Perez, people like that in midfield. They're around him. Harvey Barnes, they're around him all the time. And he goes when he thinks he needs to go. His movement's good when he thinks it has to be done. And when you're at the higher level, that happens. It's a little bit easier. But I watched West Ham versus Leicester the other day, and West Ham nullified Leicester in that respect and nullified Jamie Vardy. They wouldn't let the midfield players settle and play it through. So it can become difficult even at the Premier League level. It's a thankless task sometimes, but you cannot play one up front if you're defending so deep, because it's not fair on that one striker. Because try as you like, you're fit as fiddles at this level now. You try and get 60 yards to join in with a striker on a regular basis because you're sitting back as a defence. You just can't do it. It's impossible to keep making up that ground to try and support one player. And while you're defending deep and trying to hang on maybe to things, you drop deeper and that front man becomes more isolated. And when it does come out, it's coming straight back and putting more pressure on the defence again. The one man can't do it. He can't hold it up because try as he likes, he's not getting the support he needs quick enough. And like I said, the game, how quickly it's evolved, I think, in even last 2-3 years, you've seen the teams that have gone into the Premier League, the Leeds, the West Broms, the Sheffield Uniteds, have all played it a totally different way, an athletic way, a very quick, counter-attacking, they mix it up. We're predictable at the moment. Everybody knows how we're going to play. And they can set up accordingly. And they do set up accordingly. They don't see that they have to do a great deal maybe to beat us, just by the odd goal, because, we won't come out. We won't take, that many chances. Garner coming in, hopefully will change that a little bit because we all know about his creativity. But it's just the maybe lack of imagination when we're losing games and we put substitutes on where you think, right, he's going to put two up front here. And he doesn't. It just one up front and same old. It's, the predictability is what's causing us the problems, I think. If
I give a kind of a case in mitigation, and you can kind of rebuff it if you want, Greg. I mean, I suppose you could say there's been a lack of early signings and a kind of a lack of signings in general. So he hasn't got the players that he wanted in early enough to work with them. I think Zinchenko came in and looks really good and shows that if you get good players in, it does make a big difference. So there's that. Obviously, there's injuries to Joe Worrell. I don't think Forest would have lost as many games they have with Worrell in the team. And the fullbacks, kind of essential now to getting up the pitch and the way teams want to play. And I assume the way Chris Hughton wants to play is getting fullbacks high at the pitch. And he's not really had any fullbacks he really wanted. I'm not sure he is 100% convinced by Gabriel. They seem to be trying to get a right back all summer. And then obviously Brice Samba's form is probably the other one. He's not been the keeper that he was, and Figueiredo's not been the player that he was when he first came. So how much stock has you taken that, Greg? Do you kind of have any sympathies for the manager when you kind of take that case on board?
I do, but we are in a lot better position than, a lot of the other teams in the Championship. We have got a stronger squad still than a lot of the teams in the Championship. And, we've got these players who come through the academy that we get saved by every year, whether we sell them on and get some money, or like the likes of Finn Back, which he's been thrown in probably half a season too early, and he's done a fantastic job. And the fans usually give the academy players a bit more leeway, and he's been superb. I'm so happy for him. But Chris Hughton, he knows the deal when he signs up for Forest. He's got a great club here and a brilliant opportunity, but it's just frustrating, like I keep saying. We could have made more signings, but then you read stories about how much the owners are having to put in each month. It sounds like, it could be millions, and you think we can't just keep blindly signing players, or you ended up with, is it one of them's on 40 grand a week, not even in the squad for another year or so, and it's crippling us. So behind the scenes, we've had to try something new. And this is it. And we need a manager that can deal with that squad and get something out of them, because we're in serious trouble as it stands.
I suppose, Gary, is there an onus on a manager? I mean, you can never compare any other Forest manager to Brian Clough, but I suppose he was the man who got the most out of, the tools that he had available to him. And I suppose it's the case that Chris Hughton needs to get more out of these players, and they're underperforming. Like Greg says, when you look at the Forest squad now compared to Derby and, without no disrespect, Coventry and Peterborough and teams like that, Forest should be doing better, I suppose, shouldn't they?
You can add a few more to that. You look how well Luton have been doing. Coventry, Peterborough, Barnsley. I mean, they're punching so far above the weight, it's ridiculous. And all those clubs have got no resources like Nottingham Forest. So they're doing something right, obviously. And, Nottingham Forest, we're not doing things right, as we should be, because there's a huge disparity in the way things are going. And you have to admire the way the other clubs are doing it, because, to see all those clubs above us, it just really rankles, because, taking nothing away from them, we should be competing at least on the same level or above that level. And we're just not at the moment. And talk about signings. Last season, things were going bad for most of the season. And then you think, well, let's be looking out for next season for signings. Even at that stage, I thought the list would have been made, and, you had your players that you wanted on your A list. If you couldn't get them, you go to your B list and all that. And it's preparation, fail to prepare, prepare to fail sort of thing. I think preparation is paramount for everything in professional football. Your fitness levels, everything's jumped up another level, since I was playing. The fitness levels, everything has stepped up, and the game steps up, and you see the different levels from different teams in that league at the moment, and our level is just so far away from other people's. And people say, well, we've only lost games by the odd goal. Does it matter you've only lost games by the odd goal? Maybe in those games, if it would have been a bit more positive, we could have won those games by the odd goal. But you cannot now hang on to a 1-0 lead. If you try and do that at any level, the opposition will just lay into you. You saw that Coventry, the opening game of the season, and that has got to change. If that doesn't change, we're just going to be stuck in that same old rut all season again.
I suppose the thing Forest would say is that they're going for players that other teams want, and it's hard to get deals over the line. You have to be, like Garner's a case in point, you have to be patient to get him, and that's a great signing. And they had to wait for Watford to move to get Zinkernagel. But it does leave them in a bit of a hole. And potentially, Greg, we were talking, was it last night? I don't know, about Brennan Johnson and the chances that he goes. Brentford is relentless, but they won't pay this £10 million asking price. What would you do now, Greg, with Johnson? Because it's so late in the window, and I was saying I'd keep him now. even if he doesn't sign a contract, because teams are going to see Forest coming with 10 million quid in their pocket, and they already can't get deals over the line. So what would you do with Johnson and Worrell by the same token?
A month ago, we had to keep both of them, and it's got to that desperation point now where I feel like the only way, or one of the only ways we potentially get out this rut, is sell one of them. We seem to be going for players and valuing them way lower than they're worth. Maybe we get this money in for Johnson, which would be such a shame. You know, academy player again, son of one of the great players of my generation. Really, I'd have loved to see him continue, but it really does seem now we're thinking, God, how can we do this? And selling him might be the only option. It does worry me that if it is going to happen, it's going to be so late in the window. Do we get a chance to move on some of this money for someone else? But I speak to my Brentford friend this morning, and he was saying that potentially we could be looking at one or two of their players. So there may be some kind of deal in that, and that could be an option. But, you know, as it stands now and as the way our squad is, I think we have to sell him as long as we get the money and as long as we can use that money.
I'll tell you what, Greg, no matter what we do, no matter who we sell, doesn't matter. What has to change is the system.
Yeah,
you
completely.
Playing the system, you can bring anybody in you like. But if you keep playing the same system, you're going to get the same results. You know, because two midfield players defensively against some teams, quite agree. But we started like that against Coventry. You know, no disrespect, playing two midfield players who are defensive minded. And if you continue to do that, things aren't going to change. And it's just so frustrating. I don't see why people can't see that. You know, that needs to change. Because what's not working at the moment is obvious. And again, I hate sitting here saying things like that because I'm desperate as an ex-Forest player, as a Nottingham boy, to see my football club progress and start getting better and better and start challenging to get in the Premier League, because it's not happened. That one season where we just missed out, but you know, I think we're a bit fortunate that season at certain points, and it's just horrible to have to keep being doom and gloom merchants about it. But you have to look at it and you have to be honest. No point me sat here with Forest fans listening and watching and me saying, well, no, it's not this, it's not that. I have to say it as I see it. And what I see at the moment, I don't particularly like. It's, you know, simple as that. I'd be lying to everybody if I just said, oh, yeah, it'll come good, it's going to be okay. At the moment, it doesn't look like it's going to come good and it's going to be okay. And that is so, it's soul destroying at times, because you're desperate for Chris to do well and the club to do well, but it's not going to happen the way things are going at the moment.
Is it worse than the latter days of Lamucci, Greg? I was supportive of Lamucci going. Does this feel worse at present?
Definitely. There doesn't even seem to be a split in the fan base. I haven't seen like a single tweet or spoke to a single person that said, just give him time now, because we haven't got time. You know, the gap, we talk about Premier League and stuff, the gap gets bigger and bigger each year. It gets harder and harder, but we just always assume, one day we'll get there. We've been in the Championship longer than any other club currently in the Championship. We've currently got more chance of going into League One. And then it gets so much harder. You look at Notts County now. They're in the National League. I speak to one of their fans. They're only allowed to play like one foreign player each week. They've actually got the resources to be able to have a stronger squad, and you're not allowed. And I feel like it's getting similar with the gap of the Premier League and the Championship. These yo-yo clubs just keep going up and down, getting more and more money, or that you become like Brentford and they'll end up staying in the Premier League. I'm convinced of it, because they're ran so well, they're ran so consistently. You know, we've been a bit of a car crash for years and we're just waiting for it to click. And you hope Dane Murphy's that guy that can like glue it all together. And I think it was a superb addition. But will he be given the chance to do that? Has he actually got the power to do that? And has he got the time? Because at the minute we're in deep danger of going the other way. Bit doom and gloom. God.
Well, let's change tack and see if we can find any positivity and talk about Derby at the weekend then. I'll start with James Garner, because he's come back in and he's got to turn water into wine for the fans by the sound of it. That he's got to change everything. I suppose the theory would be that he's so good on the ball, he can pass it forwards and break lines, get Forest up the pitch 10 or 15 yards, and make Ryan Yates better again, or whoever plays alongside him. We'll talk about Yates in a minute. How much can you pin on one player, Gary? Can Garner make that much difference for Forest?
Well, we saw the impression he made when he was here before. He was our one shining light. But that was when we were in a better position than we are now. We're bottom of the table. We've got no points. And all of a sudden, he's the one person who's come in and people are saying, right, well, we've got Garner. Things might improve. It's going to be okay. That is a hell of a lot. Is he still 20?
Yeah.
He's still 20 years of age. He's still a youngster. He's been sent out to learn his trade, which is brilliant. And he shows that he can learn. He's a quick learner. He's a very talented player, but he can't do it all himself. I think we've just got to be so more proactive in that final third. It's ridiculous. And I've said this time and time again, I just feel so sorry for a striker at the moment because we're not giving them anything to feed off. They're not getting anything to have a shot on target or off target. And if it is, it's coming, at impossible angles, or they're not clear-cut chances. That has got to change, because if it doesn't change, we ain't going anywhere. We are going to be stuck in that bottom three. Derby is the perfect opportunity to change things, to make things happen, because I would guarantee Derby will be, happy with a point now, from the game. And I'm sure maybe we will. I'd be delighted with a point just to get us off the mark, just to get rid of all the doom and gloom with, seeing nil points at the bottom of the table, because that's not what we expected to see. And I'm looking forward to seeing him again. But it has to change around the final third. We're getting very little. It's predictable. The opposition work on things like that. They know how we're going to play, and it becomes easy for them. And we don't want to be an easy touch. And at the moment, I think we're an easy touch to beat.
How would you like to see Forest go about it, Greg? And how do you think they'll go about it on Saturday?
I'm dreading that minute the team sheet comes out, because, every time it's just, oh, no, not. And then the fans are putting that, that mindset straight away of negativity. Garner has to start, purely because we're pinning a lot of hopes on him. And, it's that bit of positivity we need. Taylor and Graben, surprise Derby. Carvalho, maybe, I don't know. But I just think, Rooney and his team will be looking at our squad, and they'd have watched all of our games so far and said, right, this is how Forest play. This is what we're going to do. We should just try and shock them a little bit. But obviously, I'm not no manager, and Chris Hughton knows a hell of a lot more than me. But he doesn't win that game on Saturday, he loses his job. I'm convinced of that. I can't see any other way around it. We've had it where managers have gone and won at Derby and still lost their job. But he has to show that there's something in this squad that we're currently not seeing. And it has to be on Saturday. Time's out for him now.
I suppose they have to. Well, they don't have to. I'd like them to play two up front, Gary, or, like Greg says, get someone closer to Graben and get higher up the pitch. But do you think Chris is so set in his ways that we're just going to see 4-2-3-1 turn into 4-5-1 without the ball again?
It wouldn't surprise me in the least. That's Chris's system. It's been that way for quite a while. But like Greg said, why don't we try and surprise Derby a little bit and just go a little bit different, go a little bit more positive, play a false nine a little bit, get Carvalho in there. Let's have, 2 or 3 threats instead of maybe, the one lone striker. Garner, we know, can make things happen, and he can make it happen for maybe 2 or 3 up front who are joining in. I'm not saying play 3 up front, because, that's crazy a little bit, but you can surprise oppositions by changing things up and being a little bit more fluid about the way you go about things, because you have the players within that squad who can do that, who can cause problems. I think the predictability of things is the opposition know what's going to happen with our, front line. There's no surprise element at the moment. There's nothing out there that they're afraid of defending against us, and that's got to be a concern. Whether that changes with Garner coming in, I think it might, but it's got to be, more proactive in front of him, so it gives him the opportunity to be able to pull his strings and make things happen, for Forest going forward.
Yeah, I remember when Chelsea won the league under Conte and they started playing, they were playing 4 at the back and they were pretty terrible, and they went to 3 at the back and they won the title. So it can, just make a change, I think. But anyway, so Garner starts, obviously. Who, Greg, starts alongside him? You've got Cafu, Colback, Forner and Yates. Let's assume it's 4-2-3-1. Who are you starting alongside Garner?
I think it'll be Yates, and I'm not into kicking Yates. I'm not. He does that job that we need that player to do. He sweeps up after a lot of things, but he hasn't had a great start to the season. Fornal was really good against Bradford. I'd love to see him play a lot more, but throwing him in against Derby, that's a big risk. I don't know. That's the thing. I'm sat here saying, "Oh, this is what we should do," but I don't actually know. And I think Yates does start, and that'll be the thing that gets the fans going, I think. But as long as we've got some attacking players around him.
About Zinkernagel?
As a slightly more advanced central midfielder, and Garner sits. Yeah. I think Zinkernagel wants to play out wide, but why not play Brennan Johnson as a number 8?
Yeah. If he's here, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be Yates. And like you say, Greg,
Yates and Colback.
You can be Yates and Colback and Garner in front of them.
I think it'll be Yates and Colback.
And Garner is a slightly more advanced.
I don't want that, but I think it will be that.
Colback worries me. His yellow cards. It's just rash, isn't it? It's like panic mode, and there's a good player in there, but they'll target him to get sending off. He does worry me in games like that.
Yeah, I think he wants to do what Yates does, and I mean, I'd have Yates as just like the water carrier, as they say. Win the ball and pass it to someone who can pass it forwards. I don't mind if Yates passes it. If his first instinct is to look out wide to a fullback or to Garner, then I think that's fine. I think the criticism of Yates has just gone way over the top. He's not that bad a player. And with the right player along, I think Garner will make him better. I think Colback's made him worse. I'm not going to say that Ryan Yates has had a good season, because he's not. He's been bad, as bad as anyone else, really. But I think the Forest fans just seem to focus on these 1 or 2 players. I mean, I can understand focusing on Bond, because I don't think he's been good enough at all. But I think this transfixion with Yates, I think, is a bit too over the top, personally. I think he's actually, there's a good player in there, and I'm hoping Garner makes him better. But I do think, like you say, Greg, Tyrese Forner, it looks much more of the future to me. I think he needs an opportunity in the longer term, but maybe a Derby game isn't really quite right for him. Who would you start in goal, Gary? I don't know how much you've seen of Horvath, Ethan Horvath. I thought he did very well yesterday when he conceded 4. Is it too much to make a change or not?
Again, local Derby time. Do you throw him in there? Not used to it. I think it'd be a little bit harsh on Samba, because he has been one of the best goalkeepers in the division. Goalkeepers do make mistakes, and they make mistakes because they're under pressure, because defenders are sitting back. They're getting his way. It's a difficult one for me, because he has saved Forest so many points, I think, in the last couple of seasons, and it's because the constant pressure is on him all the time that he's expected to save again and again and again. And it comes a time where you're going to make mistakes because you're under that much pressure. A lot of teams don't get the pressure that Forest do, because we all know that we sit back and if we go in front, but then obviously the ball keeps getting bombed in the box. He thinks he's got to come and take the pressure off the defenders, and he's going to drop 1 or 2 because he'll get knocked off balance. So I would keep Samba in goal for the Derby game and then take it from there.
What about you, Greg?
It doesn't either or to me. It doesn't matter. I don't think the goalkeeper's been the issue the start of this season. Mistakes have been made, like you say, because he's been put under pressure. And when you've got that much traffic going one way, then it's going to be easy to say, "Oh, the goalkeeper should have had that." I have no issue with Samba. He doesn't concern me at all. But it's that rare occasion where we've got, two decent goalkeepers. I'd love to have two decent attackers or two decent, attacking midfields ready to go in that option. But whichever goalkeeper's in on Saturday for me, I'm not going to be concerned about.
I wouldn't be averse to Horvath playing, and similarly, I wouldn't be bothered if Samba stays in goal.
If he can score us a couple of goals, I'll put, which one? Yeah, get him in.
Well, Alisson scored for Liverpool, didn't he? Yeah, get him up for corners. I think Sarah wrote a piece about Horvath saying how, with an American football expert, how he's played in the Champions League and done very well and won when he was playing for Bruges, and he did very well for America in the Gold Cup final against Mexico. He's someone who excels in big games, which makes me think he could come in and do well. So I wouldn't be averse to that. But like you say, Greg, I don't think Samba's the biggest problem at the moment. The player I was going to ask about is Finn Back. He's 18 years old and he's played a lot of football recently, but he's done really well and looks really good yesterday. Who would be your fullbacks, Greg? Because Bong's available again, I think, and Gabriel's available again, and Jaden Richardson did quite well yesterday. And fullbacks, like I was saying earlier, I think they're really important. Who would you like to see start at the back there?
Finn Back, absolutely. He has more than warranted his place. He's been really good. That first Bradford game, loved seeing him. Stoke, he was one of the ones that you really wanted to clap off the pitch at the end. And already he sounds like he's got that seasoned pro head on him. You hear he's giving other players advice and he's trying to push the ball up. So him for sure. But then, the other side, it's again, do you have lack of experience? Or Bong was terrible against Stoke. He really was. But I think it'll be him. He had the ball, simple pass, and he just kicked it out for a throw. It was infuriating. You just think about it, Finn Back, definitely. I'm not sure about the other side.
I know you've been critical of Bong periodically, Gary. When it comes to playing kids, are you if you're old enough, you're good enough, or is it a bit cruel to keep?
You're good enough, yeah. Alan Hansen, the great Alan Hansen said, we're nothing with kids, but some kids are a little bit higher than other kids. And he does sound like he's on that level. So why protect him? Get him out there. If he's got that confidence. I love the fact that you've just said he gives other people advice. He talks to other people. And that's how important Worrell is in the side, because he's a talker. He'll organise. He's not afraid to be seen to be gesticulating and giving people stick and saying, you've done that wrong or whatever. You can see his frustrations out there. And I've got no problem at all playing an 18-year-old lad. Some mature quicker than others. Not every kid or footballer matures at the same time. I was a late developer, and it's what it is. Get him in there. If he's got the ability and he's got the confidence, he could just be the surprise element against Derby. On the other side, I just can't see anything in Bong that impresses me at all. What does it? I watch what happens when the fullbacks are on the ball and they look up front, and what do they say? One striker, one person they've got to try and hit, or a midfield player coming towards them who's tightly marked, who, if he gives it to them, might get dispossessed, and then you're under pressure again as a defence. So what do? Do you play the long ball, get dispossessed yourself, play it into the midfield player who's under pressure as well, facing the wrong way? That's the dilemma, because you're only playing that one isolated man up front. Your options and your choices are so limited, it's ridiculous. And you'll get stick because you'll overhit one. You will put one out of play because you haven't got any other options. So either that or going backwards against the goalkeeper, a cross. And, so I had a little bit of sympathy, but he does have to offer more, going forward. I think Gabriel on the other side, he offered more going forward. But you have to play who you think your best two fullbacks are. Simple as. Your best two players in those positions. And, you have to do that in every position.
We've got about 10 minutes so left because Gary's got to go to have a tooth out. So we'll probably move on to our...
Joy.
It might be less painful than watching Forest recently. let's move on to some. You don't like giving predictions, do you, guys? So I'll let you give a hope at least. Greg, what's your prediction for what's actually going to happen at that derby?
Well, we're going to win, aren't we? It's all the hope's gone. This was the game when the season came out. Like, everyone's got 0 points on the board. I can't wait to go to Derby and hammer them. It's going to be 4-5-0, and they've started very well to say what the condition their whole entire club's in. But I think we're hopefully going to show something, and we're going to get the win, and it'll kickstart our season. I don't know, scrape a 1-0. That would be my hope.
What do you think, Garry? How's it going to... I know how you hope it's going to pan out. What are you thinking is going to happen then on Saturday?
I would take a draw now, just to get off the mark. I'd love to see us beat them as always, but a point would suit me down to the ground, because we need to get that 0 points off the board. Once you've got a point on the board, you can start looking up a bit. But the longer you keep on naught, the more difficult it becomes, and the more depressing it becomes, and the confidence levels go down throughout the club, the players, the squad. So never has a local derby for many a year been as important as this one.
What difference does fans make, Greg? Is it even the way Forest are going, and the fans are, like you say, toxic? Is it actually a negative to have fans there?
Yeah, at the minute it is. We spoke all pre-season about how we've really missed the fans, and as a club we missed the fans last year, but we ain't helping at the minute. We're really not. Stoke was horrible that second half, and we're booing the team off at 0-0 at home. That I just didn't get it. It's a young team. I know we're not booing the team, we're booing the way that they're set up. I know it's booing the manager and the frustration in that, but I just think for Saturday, and no matter what I say, it's not going to make a difference. No matter what that team selection is, you've just got to get behind them and make that corner just such a good atmosphere. Get behind them straight away and keep behind them. If it's not going well at the end of the first half, clap them off the pitch, give them some confidence, get the shoulders high. It does frustrate me, and that's why fans are falling out, and it is toxic in the stands. But we're back after a long time, and we have got to do our job, and just make it that. It's hard, it really is, but make it that good atmosphere. And
the thing is, Greg, the thing that strikes me, you're trying to blame lack of fans, not you. People are trying to blame the lack of fans for last season, for there being no atmosphere. And now they're trying to blame the crowd for being there, for putting pressure on. What do you want? What do people want?
Yeah.
Forest fans are absolutely unbelievable. They're one of the best supporters in that league, without a doubt. Home and away, we say it all the time. And we don't say it, for effect. It's because it's true. The home crowd, it's hostile. It's a great atmosphere to be involved in. Away from home, they fill every stadium, with a ticket allocation. And, that should lift you. Crowds should lift you. People say, it's really difficult to play in front of no fans. Okay, we accept that. Now, you've got to play in front of fans because you want to play in front of fans. So then you can't blame one or the other. You have to go out and do the business. Simple as that. If you don't, you're just going to keep sliding and sliding. And we're lucky because it's early in the season that, we're not adrift at the moment. We look adrift, but we've only had, a handful of games. So there is still possibilities to get it right and get us out. But if we lose on Saturday, then we just don't know what the future holds.
I don't know how many times you were booed off during your playing career, Garry. You were generally in successful teams. I mean, what impact would it have had if you were booed off at half-time at 0-0?
I wasn't even booed off at Man United, funnily enough. A lot of people might have thought that. But
they must be very understanding fans.
Yeah, because they saw I was trying my whatsits off. I wasn't hiding from anything. I was trying everything I possibly could to put things right, to help others out, and I never shirked anything. I just couldn't score. And that's what you have to do when things aren't going against you. You have to put 100% in, and maybe the fans are saying something that they're not happy with. That maybe they don't think some players are giving that. I don't know. I've not seen enough of the games to be able to comment on that. But fans normally are very astute. They don't boo for the sake of it. Yes, you boo because you've got no points, and I think you're right, Greg. It doesn't reflect on the players. It might do on some. But it's the the way it's happening, the way we're losing, that's causing the problems, causing the frustration. And they pay good money to watch football.
There's
Opinion.
There's that video that went round on Twitter after Stoke. I'm not sure whether you've seen it, Gary. Where
I don't do that. I've got no idea what you're talking about.
all the coaching staff walked off, and you have to walk towards the boos rang out, and then once they'd left the pitch and the players walked off, it was clapping them off and cheering them, and it that was clear what the fans were saying then. It's not you guys on the pitch, but it needs to be sorted what's going off on it with the coaching. But no, I'm not being negative towards us, the fans. I'm just saying that I really hope maybe they give us something in the first 5 minutes that sets it off and sets that positive attitude going, and that's what we need. That corner can make a hell of a lot of noise, and we're ready to as well. We're ready for that first win. So just hopefully Saturday will be the one. It has to be.
You touched upon it a little bit earlier. I think the team sheet is so important on Saturday.
Yeah.
I think because if they see what they think is a negative team sheet, the disgruntlement will be there before a ball's kicked. They want to see a positive approach, and if they see a negative sort of setup, there'll be moans and groans before a ball's even kicked. So that's going to be interesting.
Mm. And just to finish then, if Forest fail to win, even a draw, Greg, do you think that kind of regrettably, in a sense, has to be the end for the manager and they have to make a change? Even if they haven't got anyone lined up and you have to put Gary Brazil in caretaker charge again, do you think a change is just inevitable now if they don't beat Derby?
Yeah. Is it the international break after Derby?
Yes. Yeah, this is the last game before the break.
It's the obvious time to do it. I mean, it has to be that will be it. And I hope we're not talking about a new manager the next time, because it means we beat Derby and we kick-start the season. But if it doesn't go well on Saturday, I see no other option. Unless, financially we can't be doing that. Yeah. You just don't know. None of us know the situation at the club at the minute. Not a clue. But I'd hope to think Dane Murphy, he did it at Barnsley, and he might get this younger manager in, God knows who. There's some really good names out there, but if he's got control of our club at the minute and he gets his guy in and we can start building, maybe not for this season, but get safe this season and then go next season, it could be the start. You
talk about Barnsley. I watched them the other day and I thought, crikey, how good are these?
In the first half, they were really good.
They played, they threw it away a little bit, but my word, everything was cohesive. There was support up front. There were major options in the box. They were causing all sorts of problems. And I thought, they're in red. I wish that was us, because you just don't see that from us. It was vibrant. It was great to watch. There was a lot of invention in that final third around that 18-yard box. And it lifted you watching football like that. And then you think, well, this is Barnsley. You have to say little Barnsley, really, because compared with Forest, they are, a small club. And, that's frustrating for everybody as well when they can see, a team like Barnsley or Coventry do what they do, and Luton as well in that group.
Right, I think we shall leave it there. Thanks for everyone who's listened and watched along, and we'll be back on Monday to review the game, if not sooner, depending on what happens. Gary, thank you very much for doing this before you go, not under the knife, but you have the tooth out.
Oh, thanks for that.
Good luck with that. I've been under the knife last week.
I'm having soup later.
And Greg, thank you for getting out of bed after working nights and just injecting coffee straight into your veins. To do
what a fine man.
Yeah, that's all right.
So thanks for good as ever. Even though it's been miserable, it's been enjoyable, and I hope people find it interesting. So we'll leave it there, and we shall catch up with everyone on Monday. Thanks.